The gate of the big Lekki house slid open in the rain. A black SUV rolled out. In the back seat, under a white bedsheet, Alice lay very still. No blink, no sound, only the soft beat of water on the glass. Victor, her husband, sat in front with the driver. His face looked hard, but his eyes were red. The cook and 2 guards stood by the gate, whispering with fear. Someone crossed themselves. Someone said, "Chai." "Straight to Oshodi," Victor said, voice low. "We will hand her to her people, as custom demands." The driver nodded. The wiper moved left, right, left, like a slow clock. Victor turned his face away, as if the sight of the covered body burned his eyes. He pressed his hand to his mouth. A sound came out, half cough, half cry. The SUV pushed into the night rain, onto the highway, past the bright signs and the dark water below the bridge. Then, under the sheet, a tiny thing happened. Alice's left thumb twitched. It was small. It was fast. No one saw it. And that was how the story, the one in the title, truly began. 6 months before that night, Alice thought she had found her safe place. Victor was handsome. He dressed neat, always in fresh shirts that smelled like clean soap. He drove her to work sometimes and opened the door for her. He sent flowers to her office on Fridays. He called her my star. When he spoke softly, the whole world felt calm. Her father had warned her. He loved her deeply, and his voice was always gentle when he worried. "Alice," he said, "kindness is not only in gifts. It is also in space. Does he give you space to breathe?" Alice laughed and hugged him. "Daddy, you worry too much." Victor asked her to marry him on a Sunday after church. He set the ring like a crown in a little red box. He promised to protect her, to make her never know pain. Alice cried happy tears. She believed him. The first small change came a week after the wedding. "You don't need to work," Victor said, smiling. "My wife should rest. I can take care of everything." "I like my job," Alice said softly. She worked at a small office in Ikeja. She liked stamping papers, balancing numbers, and the small jokes with her co-workers at lunch. Victor's smile cooled. "Why argue? I know what is best for my home." He kissed her forehead. He gave her a big allowance. He bought her new dresses. And still, he asked every morning, "Will you resign now?" When she did not, his words became harder, not loud, but sharp. "Must you disobey? Why do you like the eyes of other men at your office? Do you want to shame me?" Soon he started picking her calls and reading her messages. "Who is Funka?" "My friend." Friend or gossip? He made a rule, no going out without my permission. At first, the rule felt like a joke. Then it became a chain. He took her office ID and hid it. He told the driver to watch her. He told the house staff to report who visited. Then he told her family a lie. Alice has traveled abroad for a course. He locked her phone sometimes for peace. He replaced her SIM for security. He moved cameras into the corridor for safety. The smiles he wore in public became a cold mask at home. When Alice cried, he said she was too sensitive. When she tried to talk, he said she was talking back. When she begged for space, he said, "I am your husband. I own your time." There were dark days. On one of those days, he slapped her, not once, twice. Her ear rang like a bell. She sat on the floor and held her cheek, feeling the sting and the heat. He looked at his hand like it was not his own, and then walked away. Later, he brought ice and pressed it to her face himself. "See what you made me do," he whispered. "Don't provoke me again." Alice learned to smile in the day and shake in the night. She learned to swallow words. She learned the quiet places of the house, the corner by the stairs, the balcony facing the sea, the small store with the tools and old paint buckets, where she could breathe for 1 minute without his eyes on her. She missed her father and mother. She wanted to run to them in Oshodi. She wanted to sit on a short stool in the yard and drink Gary the way she did as a child. She wanted her father's big laugh and her mother's warm hug. But every time she asked to visit, Victor said, "Later, when I am less busy." Later never came. One afternoon, the cook's niece forgot her phone on the kitchen table. It was old, with a cracked screen. Alice took it, ran into the store, and closed the door. Her hands shook so much she almost dropped the phone. She dialed her father's number by memory. Hello? Hello? Who is this? Her father said. His voice made her eyes fill at once. Daddy, it's me, she whispered. It's Alice. The call cut. The network. Her hand trembled. She tried again. She heard his voice. Alice. And then the door opened. Victor stood there, calm, too calm. He took the phone from her, placed it back on the kitchen table, and smiled at the cook. Be careful where you keep your things, he said. When they were alone, his smile turned to stone. No more calls without me. Do you understand? Alice nodded, but in her heart a small fire lit. That night she could not sleep. The moonlight spilled across the floor like milk. She remembered a story she once heard, about a woman who survived a robber by pretending to sleep, breathing slow until the danger passed. Alice turned that story over and over in her mind. A new thought grew, thin like a thread, but strong enough to hold hope. What if I pretend, not to sleep, but to be gone? The idea was scary. It was wild. It was the only path she saw. Over the next days, she watched and waited. She learned the house clock, when the maid went to the market, when the driver left to pick Victor, when the guards changed shifts. She learned how long it took for the SUV to reach Third Mainland Bridge. She learned that when someone dies, families in their place would carry the body back to the person's people, to sit and cry and speak with elders. She pictured Oshodi, her father's yard. She pictured neighbors coming to cry with them. She pictured a small candle by her side. She pictured herself waking up. On a hot afternoon, Alice stood in front of the mirror with a scarf on her head. She stared at the woman in the glass. The woman's eyes were tired, but they were still bright. You will live, she told the mirror softly. You will live. She went downstairs. I am not feeling well, she told the cook. I will walk to the small chemist by the corner. I need pain medicine. The cook, who liked Alice, looked worried. Mama, let me go for you. No, I need fresh air. Just 5 minutes. The cook sighed and let her go. Outside the gate, the sun was white hot, but the wind was soft on her face. For the first time in weeks, Alice felt free skin. She walked fast. She kept her head down. She reached the little chemist shop with the green sign, Busy Chemist. A bell rang when she pushed the door. A young woman with neat braids looked up. Good afternoon, madam. Please, Alice said, voice low, I need something to make me sleep. Long sleep, strong. The woman frowned. Why? I have not been sleeping, Alice said. It was true. My head is heavy. I need help. The woman showed her 2 boxes. These are over the counter. No doctor needed. But be careful. Read the dose. Take small. Do not mix. Alice paid with cash she had hidden inside the hem of a wrapper. She thanked the woman. She walked back to the house, steady and slow, like the ground could hear her heart. In her room, she hid the boxes under the bed. Then she waited. That evening, Victor said he would be home late. He sent a message. Don't wait up. Alice breathed out. It felt like a door opened inside her chest. She laid out the plan in steps, like counting stones across a river. Bath. Wear clean clothes. Place water by the bed. Write a small note and fold it under the pillow. If I wake, do not scream. I am alive. Take the pills, enough to sleep deep, not to cross the line. Lie still. Breathe slow. When he finds me, he will think I am gone. He will carry me to Oshodi. Then, God please, wake. The clock moved like a slow drum. 9 p.m., 10, 11. The house was quiet except for the ocean far away. At midnight, Alice opened the first box. Her hands shook. She read the label again and again, moving her lips the way a child reads the first time. 1 tablet at night. Do not exceed 2 in 24 hours. She thought of Victor's eyes. She thought of the slap. She thought of her father's laugh. She thought of her mother's hands. She poured 2 tablets into her palm. She looked at them. Then she did a brave, dangerous thing. She added 1 more, 3 in her hand. She whispered, God hold me. Wake me when it is time. She drank them with water. She lay down, placed the sheet loosely over her and closed her eyes. At first, nothing. Then a soft heaviness, like a blanket made of river. It pulled her down, but not too fast. She breathed slow, counting in her mind. 1, 2. The fan hummed. Somewhere far, a car honked. The heaviness deepened. Her arms felt like wood. Her eyelids felt like stone. The door clicked. Steps. Victor's cologne entered the room before he did. Cool, sharp. "Alice?" he said. No answer. He touched her shoulder. "Alice." He shook her, hard this time. "A lice." Silence. She was deep in a dark, safe well. He pressed his ear to her chest. He felt the light rise and fall, but he did not trust it. He looked at her face. He touched her wrist. He shouted for the driver. He shouted for the cook. The house woke with running feet. "Something is wrong," Victor said, and his voice finally cracked. "Call the driver. Prepare the car." He swallowed. "We will take her to her father, now." The cook began to cry. The guards stood like posts. The driver ran in with a clean sheet. They covered her body with it. Victor stood still for a long second. His jaw jumped and jumped, like it wanted to speak but could not. Then he turned and walked out, his face a mask again. They carried her down. The rain had started. The smell of wet dust filled the compound. The sheet glowed in the house lights. The SUV door opened. They laid her inside gently. The driver started the engine. The gate rolled. The night swallowed them. On the journey, Lagos rushed by. Big screens with bright adverts. Pepper sellers huddled under umbrellas. The black water under the bridge moved like a sleeping animal. Victor stared straight ahead, his hands locked together so tight his knuckles were white. The driver kept his eyes on the road. In the back, under the sheet, Alice drifted between dark and dream. She saw her father as a young man, lifting her up and spinning her in the yard. She smelled kerosene from a little stove. She heard her mother singing Asa's Jailer, Soft Soft, while washing plates. The dreams were warm. Behind them, fear watched, but hope stood in front, holding out a hand. Oshodi was awake even at night. The streets were busy with small lights and big sounds. The SUV left the main road and turned into a narrow street. It stopped by a low yellow house with a blue door and a mango tree. That was Alice's home. That was where she learned to tie her first scarf. That was where she kept her first report card in a tin box. Neighbors came out fast when they saw the SUV and the white sheet. Someone shouted, "Alice," and started to cry. Someone ran to call her father. He came to the door with sleep still in his eyes and fear already in his chest. When he saw the sheet, he held the door frame. His legs shook. Victor stepped forward. His voice was hoarse. "Baba, I am sorry. She is gone." The yard filled with people. The women cried loud. The men shook their heads and made space. The air smelled like rain and palm oil and sadness. They carried Alice inside, into the small sitting room with the brown sofa, the family photos and the calendar that still showed last month. They laid her on a mat on the floor. Someone lit a candle. The light was gold and weak. Her father knelt by her head. He touched her hair. He touched her cheek. He prayed with the simple words he knew. "God, you gave. God, please." His voice broke. He bent closer, so close his tears fell on her forehead. Minutes passed. The room's noise went up and down like the sea. Victor stood near the door, breathing hard. His face was wet now. He kept wiping it with his palm as if he could erase the whole night. Then a very small thing happened. Alice's left hand moved. Not much, just a finger. But her father felt it under his own hand. He froze. He looked at her face. He looked at the candle. He looked at her chest. "Alice?" he whispered, not daring to hope. "My child?" He put his ear close to her lips. The air there was warmer. He heard the faintest sound, a sound like a baby bird. He pulled back and stared, his eyes wide, the world bright and sharp in one blink. "Alice," he said louder. Her mother gasped and dropped the rosary she was holding. One of the neighbors screamed and jumped up, knocking over a small stool. Two aunties ran out of the room, wailing, "Jesu! Ghost!" The candle flame shook and made the shadows dance along the wall. Victor took a step forward, slow, like someone walking into a dream he did not understand. His mouth opened. No words came out. And there, on the mat, under the thin light, Alice's eyelashes fluttered. Her lips parted. A breath came, long and real. Her eyes opened. The candle's flame trembled as if it too was afraid of what it saw. Alice's eyes blinked once, twice, slow, heavy, like someone rising from underwater. Her mother screamed and pressed herself against the wall. "Alice! Alice!" But she was gone. Her father froze halfway between prayer and shock. His hands trembled above her, unsure whether to touch or run. Then, in a small, weak voice, Alice whispered, "Daddy." The whole room went silent. Even the crying stopped. The only sound left was the hum of the ceiling fan turning lazily above them. "Alice," her father said again, falling to his knees beside her. His voice broke. "My child, are you alive? Talk to me." Alice turned her face toward him, her lips pale but moving. "I'm alive, Daddy. Please don't shout. I had to do it. I had to." Her father's tears came like rain. He pulled her gently into his arms. "Thank you, Jesus," he kept saying. "Thank you." Outside, neighbors peeked through the door, whispering in disbelief. Some thought it was a miracle, others a ghost. But Alice, weak, trembling, and barely able to sit, held onto her father's shirt, as if she was holding on to life itself. Victor stood by the door like a statue. His mouth hung open slightly. He blinked once, twice. Then his face darkened. "What is this?" he said slowly. "What game are you playing, Alice?" Her mother turned on him sharply. "Game? You brought my daughter here as a corpse. Now she wakes up and you call it a game?" Victor's jaw tightened. His voice was low but shaking. "I saw her. She wasn't breathing. Her body was cold." Alice opened her eyes again, weak but steady. "I wanted you to think I was gone, Victor," she said softly, "because that was the only way you'd let me go." The room gasped. Victor's eyes widened. "What did you say?" Her father rose to his feet, protective fire in his eyes. "You heard her. She is done with you." Victor tried to speak, but Alice's mother stepped in between them, pointing toward the door. "You will not shout in my house, Victor. You took her voice once. You will not take it again." Victor clenched his fists, breathing hard. The room watched, waiting for him to explode. But instead, he turned away and stormed outside, slamming the metal door behind him. Inside, her father knelt beside Alice again. "My daughter, tell me what happened. What did he do to you?" Alice's eyes filled with tears. She tried to speak, but her lips trembled. He took everything from me, Daddy. My job, my phone, my peace. He said I belonged to him. He said I had no right to go anywhere without asking." Her mother covered her mouth, crying quietly. "Oh, my baby," Alice continued, voice thin like thread. "He made me quit my work. He said he was protecting me, but he just wanted control. He would hit me for small things, if I laughed too loud, if I answered too slow." Her father shook his head slowly, eyes burning with pain. "And you endured all that alone?" Alice nodded. "He told everyone I traveled abroad. Nobody came, even the cook and guards. They were watching me for him." Auntie Bose, one of the neighbors, stepped closer, shaking her head. "That man is wicked. May God punish the hands that bruised their wives." The words made Alice's mother cry louder. She held Alice's face in both hands. "You should have told us, my daughter." "I tried," Alice said, her voice breaking. "I called once, but he caught me. That was the day I decided I couldn't stay anymore." Her father sighed deeply and stood up. His voice was calm but filled with power. "No more tears. I'm returning his bride price first thing tomorrow morning." The room went silent. "Daddy," Alice whispered weakly. Her father looked at her. "No man that locks my child in pain deserves to call her wife. You're safe now." Outside, Victor stood under the mango tree, rain dripping down from the leaves onto his expensive shoes. His driver tried to say something, but Victor raised a hand. "She fooled me," Victor muttered. "She made me a fool in front of everyone." The driver kept quiet. Victor's face was pale with rage and confusion. "She'll see what it means to humiliate me," he said finally. "She thinks she can leave just like that?" He turned toward the house again, but two of Alice's uncles had already come out. Strong-built men with faces that looked like carved stone. "Victor, The older one said firmly. "You will not go back inside. Go home. The elders will handle this in the morning." Victor tried to push past them. "She's my wife." The younger uncle stepped forward. "Not anymore." Victor looked at their faces, both calm but unyielding. He realized this wasn't Lekki. No one here bowed to his money. He hissed under his breath, entered the SUV, and drove away into the wet night. Back inside, Alice had fallen asleep on her mother's lap. She looked peaceful for the first time in months. Her father sat quietly, watching the candle flame dance. "That man will not touch her again," he said softly. Auntie Bose nodded. "We must tell the elders tomorrow. Let the whole street know the truth." Her mother stroked Alice's hair. "God saved her," she whispered. "Even the dead cannot stay when he says live." Outside, thunder rolled far away. Somewhere in Lekki, a man sat alone in a dark house, staring at the wedding photo on the wall. He poured himself a drink and smashed the glass when he saw her smile in the frame. He whispered her name, Alice, like it was a curse. Then, slowly, a plan began to form in his mind. The next morning came with light rain and murmuring neighbors. Alice sat on the veranda, wrapped in a shawl. Her father came out with an envelope, the bride price and documents from the traditional wedding. He said, "Today we end this. You'll start again." Alice looked at him, eyes tired but alive. "What if he comes back, Daddy?" Her father smiled faintly. "Then he'll meet me first." But even as he said it, a dark car stopped at the corner of the street. Inside, Victor watched them quietly, through tinted glass, his fingers tapping the steering wheel. He didn't look like a man who had given up. He looked like a man who had come to take back what he thought he owned. The morning sun came out slowly, washing away the last of the rain. In Oshodi, the air smelled of fried yam, exhaust, and life. Children ran past shouting, traders called prices from wooden tables, and motorbikes sped through the narrow street. But in Alice's father's compound, the air was still heavy, the kind of quiet that came before a storm. Alice sat on the veranda, her head wrapped in a soft scarf, sipping warm tea. She was finally breathing freely again. Her mother sat beside her, peeling oranges. Every time she looked at her daughter, she smiled with relief, then frowned, remembering everything Alice had been through. Inside, her father was getting ready to meet the elders. He wore a clean white native outfit and held an envelope, the same one containing the bride price Victor had paid. It was time to return it. As he stepped out, he said firmly, "When I hand this over, that man's hold over you ends. Forever." Alice nodded. "Thank you, Daddy." But deep down she was afraid, because she knew Victor. He wasn't a man who accepted loss quietly. Far away, in Lekki, Victor sat in his expensive living room, staring at the broken glass on the floor. His hair was messy, his shirt halfway unbuttoned. Empty bottles sat on the table beside him. He hadn't slept, he hadn't eaten. He kept replaying her words in his head. "I wanted you to think I was gone, because that was the only way you'd let me go." That sentence haunted him. He slammed his fist on the table. "She made a fool of me," he shouted. His driver, standing by the door, looked frightened. "Sir, maybe you should rest. You—" "Shut up," Victor snapped. "I gave her everything, house, car, clothes, and she repays me with shame?" He stood up suddenly and threw the empty bottle at the wall. It shattered loudly. Then, after a long silence, his face changed. The rage melted into something else, cold and dangerous. "I'll bring her back," he said softly, "one way or another." By afternoon, the small family meeting had gathered at Alice's house. 3 elders sat on plastic chairs under the mango tree, grey-haired men with calm, heavy eyes. Her father greeted them respectfully, then explained everything that had happened. He ended by placing the envelope before them. "Here is the bride price. That marriage is over. My daughter will not go back to that man." The eldest of the men, Baba Matthew, nodded slowly. "It is well. A man who beats his wife has no place in a family. We will send word to his people." Alice's mother added bitterly, "Let him marry his pride. That is what he truly loves." The men murmured in agreement. Then, just as they began to pray over Alice for strength and healing, a black SUV stopped right outside the gate. Everyone froze. Her father frowned. "Who is that?" Before anyone could answer, the gate creaked open. Victor stepped in, wearing dark sunglasses, dressed in black, his face tight with anger. The elders looked at each other in surprise. Alice's mother gasped and stood in front of her daughter. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. Victor smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. "I came for my wife." Her father stepped forward. "You came to the wrong place. She's no longer yours." Victor ignored him and looked straight at Alice. "You think you can embarrass me, Alice? You think you can fake death and run to these people like a child?" Alice's voice shook, but she spoke. "You left me no choice. You locked me up like a prisoner. Victor, you hurt me." His smile disappeared. "Don't say that again." Her father moved between them. "Enough. You will not talk to her like that here." Victor raised his voice. "Stay out of this, old man. You don't know what marriage is. You don't know how much I've done for her." Alice's mother shouted, "You did nothing but destroy her." The neighbors had begun to gather by the fence, whispering. Someone pulled out a phone to record. Victor noticed and hissed. "So this is what you wanted, Alice? To turn me into a fool in front of the world?" Alice stood, trembling but strong. "No, Victor. I just wanted peace." Victor took one step closer, his voice low and dangerous. "You belong with me, Alice. You hear me? You are my wife." Her father raised his hand. "No, Victor. She's my daughter, and she's free." In that tense silence, the oldest elder, Baba Matthew, spoke for the first time. "Victor," he said calmly, "you have already been shamed enough. Take what dignity remains and leave. The bride price will be returned to your family today. There is no marriage left." Victor's jaw tightened. "You can't do that without my consent." "We can," the elder said firmly, "because it is not a marriage if there is no peace." The words hung in the air like thunder. Victor glared at everyone, his eyes full of fire. For a moment it seemed he might lash out again, but then he turned sharply and stormed out. The sound of the SUV door slamming echoed through the compound. Alice collapsed onto the chair, shaking. Her mother held her tightly. "It's over," she whispered. "He can't touch you now." But Alice didn't feel safe yet. She knew Victor's anger too well. It wasn't the type that burned and went out. It was the kind that stayed quietly until it found another chance to strike. That night, Oshodi was quiet except for the soft hum of crickets. The moon was high, bathing the street in silver light. Inside the house, everyone had gone to bed. Alice lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Every shadow looked like him. Every small sound made her heart race. She got up, walked to the window and looked out. The street was empty, or so she thought. Across the road, half hidden by a palm tree, a black SUV was parked with its headlights off. Inside, Victor sat in the driver's seat, eyes fixed on the house. He whispered to himself, "You can't hide from me, Alice. You're mine." His phone buzzed. It was his cousin, Jide. "Victor, where are you? I heard what happened." Victor's voice was cold. "Don't worry. I'm handling it." "Don't do anything stupid, please," Jide said. "You've already caused enough trouble." But Victor ended the call. His eyes never left the house. Inside, Alice's father suddenly woke up. He felt uneasy, like something was wrong. He went to check on Alice's room, but found it empty. He rushed to the window and saw her standing quietly, staring out. "Alice, what are you doing awake?" "I can't sleep," she said softly. "I keep thinking he's out there." Her father sighed. He wouldn't dare come back tonight. But he looked out the window anyway. The street looked peaceful, yet in the distance, a faint glint of headlights flashed, then disappeared. He frowned. "Lock the doors properly," he said. "We'll visit the police tomorrow." Alice nodded. She went back to her bed and tried to rest. But outside, Victor's car was still there. He lit a cigarette, eyes full of bitterness, watching the light in her window fade. He took out his phone again, opened the photo of Alice smiling beside him during their honeymoon, and whispered, "You think you can run? You'll come back to me, one way or another." He crushed the cigarette, started the engine, and drove away slowly into the night. But the look in his eyes said it clearly. He wasn't finished. Morning came with the sound of vendors shouting and buses honking. Oshodi was awake, alive and noisy, but inside Alice's family house, everyone moved quietly. Her father had not slept much. He sat on the wooden bench in the yard, sipping tea and staring at the street. Something in his chest still felt uneasy. He had seen the faint flash of headlights last night, and even though he didn't tell Alice, he knew what his heart was warning him about. Victor. Inside the house, Alice sat on the bed, staring at her small mirror. Her eyes looked tired but clear. She had tied a blue scarf neatly around her hair. Her mother entered with breakfast, bread and pap with milk. "My daughter, you must eat," she said gently. Alice smiled weakly. "I'm trying, Mama. I just can't stop thinking." Her mother sat beside her. "You have to let yesterday go. That man has no power here. The elders saw to that." Alice sighed. "I wish that were true." Her mother frowned. "What do you mean?" Alice looked at her reflection again. "Victor is not the type to walk away quietly. He will try something. I know him." Her mother reached for her hand. "Then he will meet his end, not yours. You are not alone anymore." Alice nodded but said nothing. Outside, her father's friend, Uncle Samson, a retired police officer, arrived. He had heard what happened and came straight over. "Good morning, my people," he greeted, shaking hands with everyone. "I heard that man came here to cause trouble yesterday?" "Yes," her father said. "He came shouting and threatening. I told him my daughter is done." Uncle Samson's face grew serious. "Then you must report him to the police station at once. That man can be dangerous. I've seen such cases before. They always come back." Her father sighed. "I was thinking the same. We'll go today." Alice felt a small wave of relief. For the first time, someone was taking her fears seriously. Meanwhile, across town, Victor was sitting in a cafe with his cousin, Jide. "Bro, you're going too far," Jide said, sipping his drink. "You can't keep chasing her after what happened. Everyone's talking about it. Just move on." Victor leaned back, smirking. "Move on? After she humiliated me in front of half of Lagos? Never." Jide frowned. "You hit her, Victor. You made her life miserable. What did you expect her to do? Stay and die?" Victor's smile vanished. "I gave her a life people only dream of. I just wanted obedience. Is that too much to ask?" "Yes," Jide snapped. "Love is not control." Victor slammed his hand on the table, making everyone in the cafe look at them. "You don't understand. She made me weak. I begged her to come back, and she faked her death." He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "Now she's out there telling people lies about me. I'll fix it my own way." Jide's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, fix it?" Victor smiled faintly. "You'll see." Back in Oshodi, Alice's father and Uncle Samson went to the police station. The DPO, a calm man in his 50s, listened carefully as they explained everything: the abuse, the threats, the fake death, and Victor's return. When they were done, the DPO said, "You did well to report this. I'll assign 2 officers to watch your street for a few days. If he returns, call us immediately." Her father thanked him. As they left, Uncle Samson muttered, "I know men like Victor. When their pride is broken, they stop thinking straight." They returned home around noon. Alice was sitting with her mother on the veranda, peeling groundnuts. When she saw her father, she smiled a little. "Did you go to the station?" Her father nodded. "Yes, we are safe now." Alice breathed out slowly. For the first time in days, she felt a bit of peace. But peace can be short-lived. Because while they were talking, Victor was already in Oshodi again. But this time, he wasn't alone. His SUV stopped 2 streets away from Alice's house. He stepped out wearing dark glasses and a cap. Behind him came 2 men, tall, muscular and mean-looking. "Wait here," he told the driver. Then he pointed to the men. "You know what to do. I just want her out quietly, no noise." The men nodded. Victor looked at the house from a distance. He could see the roof, the mango tree, the small gate. He smiled coldly. "You made me a fool, Alice. Let's see how clever you are now." The men began to move through the side path, pretending to be electricians fixing the street cables. One carried a toolbox, the other held a long wire. No one paid them much attention. They reached the back of Alice's compound, where the wall was cracked. One of them climbed over easily and landed inside the small backyard. Inside, Alice was in her room folding her clothes when she heard something. A small sound, like a shoe brushing against the wall. She froze. "Mama?" she called softly. No answer. She walked to the window and peeked outside. Nothing, just the swaying of the mango tree. But the uneasiness in her chest returned. Then she saw it, a shadow moving behind the small shed. Her heart jumped. "Daddy!" she screamed. "Someone's behind the house." Her father and Uncle Samson rushed out. Uncle Samson grabbed a cutlass that leaned on the wall. The moment the first intruder saw them, he tried to run. But Uncle Samson was faster. He swung the cutlass, stopping just inches from the man's leg. "Who are you?" he barked. The man hesitated, stuttering. We came to check the light wire." "Liar," her father shouted. "There's no light work here today." The second man jumped back over the wall and ran. The first one panicked, dropped the toolbox and followed him. The neighborhood came alive immediately. Men and boys from nearby houses rushed in with sticks and cutlasses, chasing after them. Within minutes, the street was buzzing. "They were spies," someone shouted. "Thieves," another yelled. Alice stood trembling by the door as her father held her close. "You see," he said quietly. "You were right, he sent them." Uncle Samson picked up the dropped toolbox. Inside were no tools, just rope and duct tape. He looked up, eyes dark. They weren't fixing light. They came to take someone. The neighbors gasped. Her mother began to cry, "Oh God, this man wants to kill my daughter." Uncle Samson put his hand on her shoulder. "He failed today, but we must act fast. I'll talk to my police friends. This won't end quietly." That evening, 2 police officers arrived and took the toolbox as evidence. They promised to investigate. The neighbors gathered again, talking in low tones. Alice sat quietly inside, shaking. Her mother brought her food, but she couldn't eat. She whispered, "Mama, he won't stop until he gets what he wants." Her mother touched her hand. "Then we'll make sure what he wants becomes impossible." But even as she said that, outside the compound, parked 2 houses away, Victor sat in his SUV, staring at the flashing police lights. His jaw was tight. His hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. "They think they can hide behind the police," he muttered. "Fine, let's see who breaks first." He started the engine and drove away into the night, but not before making one last call. "Hello? It's Victor. Do what I told you. She'll learn she can't escape me." That night, as the rain began again, Alice's phone buzzed with an unknown number. She hesitated, then picked it up. The voice on the other end was deep and cold. "You think the police can save you? Wait till tomorrow, Alice. Then you'll know who your husband really is." The line went dead. Alice froze, the phone slipping from her hand. "Daddy!" she shouted. Her father rushed in, and when she told him what she heard, his face hardened. "Tomorrow, we're leaving this place," he said firmly, "before he does something we can't undo." But across town, Victor sat in a dark hotel room, his plan already set in motion. Tomorrow wasn't just another day. It was the day he would try to take her back, one way or another, and this time, he wasn't coming alone. The next morning was silent. Too silent. Even the usual shouts of street hawkers outside the compound seemed far away. A grey mist hung over Oshodi. The air felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. Inside, Alice's father was packing hurriedly. He had decided they would leave that morning. "We'll stay with my brother in Ibadan for a while," he said. "You'll be safe there." Alice nodded. Her hands shook as she folded her few clothes into a small bag. Her mother was in the kitchen, making tea, humming softly just to calm her own fear. But behind the quiet, danger was already moving closer. At the edge of the street, Victor's black SUV stopped. He sat in the back seat, dressed in all black, his face hard and cold. With him were the same 2 men from the day before, plus a third, heavier man wearing dark shades. Victor spoke in a low voice. "This time, no mistakes. She leaves this house with me, alive." The men nodded. He checked his watch. 8:47 a.m. "Let's move." Inside, Alice's mother walked to the front door to hang wet clothes outside. She froze when she saw the SUV approaching slowly. Her voice trembled. "Chukwudi, he's back." Alice's father dropped the bag and ran outside. "Everybody inside now." But before he could close the gate, the 2 men jumped out of the car and rushed toward him. "Get back," her father shouted. He swung a wooden stick, striking one of them in the arm. The man groaned but kept coming. Alice screamed from the doorway, "Leave him alone." Victor stepped out of the car calmly, like a man walking into his own house. "Enough of this drama, Alice," he said. "You're coming with me." Her mother shouted, "Over my dead body." Victor's eyes burned. "That can be arranged." He started walking toward her, but suddenly, a loud voice thundered, "Stop right there!" Everyone turned. At the corner of the street, a police van pulled up. 4 officers jumped out, led by Uncle Samson himself. He had returned earlier than expected, worried about last night's threat. "Victor Adams," Uncle Samson barked, "you're under arrest for attempted kidnapping, harassment, and domestic abuse." Victor froze for a second, then he laughed bitterly. "Arrest me? Do you know who I am?" One officer stepped forward and said calmly, "Yes, sir. A man who's about to spend the night in a cell." Victor turned to run, but his men were already being pinned to the ground by the other officers. The neighbors began to pour into the street, watching and whispering. "Nah, that wicked husband," someone murmured. "God don catch am," another replied. Alice stood trembling by the doorway, her eyes wide with disbelief. Victor looked at her as the officers handcuffed him. His voice was still proud, but there was fear behind it. "You think this is over, Alice? You think they can save you from me?" Uncle Samson stepped between them. "No, Victor, she saved herself." The officers pushed him into the van. As it drove away, the neighbors clapped. Some shouted, "God bless you." Alice, others hugged her father and mother, but Alice stood still, tears sliding down her face, not from fear this time, but from something she hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. That evening, peace finally returned to the small house. The police promised Victor would be charged and that his men would face trial. Uncle Samson sat outside with Alice's father, both drinking soft drinks, smiling for the first time in days. Inside, Alice sat with her mother on the veranda. The golden evening sun touched her face. Her mother smiled gently. "You're free now, my child." Alice nodded slowly. "Yes, but Mama, I want to do something." "What is it?" "I want to tell my story," Alice said. "There are other women out there suffering like I did, afraid to speak, thinking it's love when it's control. I want them to know they can survive." Her mother's eyes softened. "Then you must speak, my daughter. Let your pain help others heal." Alice smiled faintly. "I will." A week later, Alice stood before a small crowd at a community center in Yaba. Women, students, and even a few men sat in plastic chairs. Behind her was a banner that read, "Hope After Hurt, a talk on domestic abuse." Her voice trembled at first, but it grew stronger with every word. "I was once afraid to breathe without permission. I thought love meant obeying, even when it hurt. But I learned something. Silence can kill faster than a slap. No one deserves to live in fear." People clapped softly. Some women wiped tears from their eyes. She ended her talk with a line that became the theme of her new life. "Love does not lock doors, it opens them." Months passed. Alice got a new job at a small accounting firm in Surulere. Her laughter returned. Her parents' home was filled with joy again. She visited women's groups on weekends, helping others find their voice. One evening, she stood on the veranda, watching the sunset. The same sun that once hid her pain now bathed her face in gold. Her father walked up behind her. "You're strong, my daughter," he said proudly. "I'm glad you came back to life. Not just from sleep, but from fear." Alice smiled. "Daddy, I think God woke me twice. Once that night, and again when I realized I deserved better." He nodded, eyes glistening. "You did, my child. You did." They both looked toward the road. Children were laughing. A woman was frying puff-puff. Life was moving forward. And for the first time in a long time, Alice felt it. Peace without permission. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos.